over the weekend. The third series of Premier League games took place, and again there were surprise results, and it is building up to be a very interesting season, as always. And I'm joined now by John Giles and Liam Brady to look back at the weekend and also to look forward to tonight's game between Manchester United and Liverpool at Old Trafford. John, you must be a happy man. Leeds 3, Chelsea 0. A surprise result, I would say, for most people. Chelsea had a player sent off near the end, Koulibaly, but Leeds looked, on what I saw, to be all over them, and it looked like a really good performance.
Very, very good performance, Eamon. Well deserved. They made Chelsea look a poor team, and the longer the game went on, Eamon, so it was very, very good. It was like back to the Bielsa days, Eamon, where they were, you know, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, where the great pressure on the opposition, going right to the end. So I think what he's done there, Eamon, for my opinion is worth, is that I think when Bielsa near the end, I think he was probably overdoing the training with the players, Eamon, and not giving them a rest. I think he was very, very hard on them.
Right.
So I think what Jesse Marsh has done, I think it's quite clever, if this is what I think he's done, is to do the same training, but not as much.
Yes.
You know what I mean? In other words, enough to do on Saturday. I think from what I can gather from people at Leeds, the players were getting, fed up with the training. You know, it was too much day in, day out, in, day out, then to produce on the Saturday. So what I think he's done is ease down a lot on the training, so they're right, and they were like the Bielsa team yesterday in terms of go,
yes.
And the few players that he has signed, have done well.
Yeah, this fella Harrison was singled out on television. He scored the last goal, the third goal rather, but he's new, isn't he?
Yeah, I've names written down: Tyler Adams, Mark Rocca, and Brendan Aronson.
Aronson, yeah, he scored the first goal, a good goal.
Yeah, the goalkeeper made a mess of it, as we know. But he got in and he did it. But they were very, very good in midfield. I'd never seen these players playing before, Eamon. And I was critical of them selling, you know, two of their best players, Vieira and Phillips. But these lads played in midfield. They were very, very, very good. And the whole team, you know, looked like a good team, Eamon. Now, we've got to see more of them, obviously. But Chelsea, as we know, are a good side. But they totally outplayed Chelsea on the day. There's no doubt about that. They were very, very good. Yeah,
Liam, Chelsea, I thought it was a shock. They kind of gave up almost. And I thought, we all thought, I think, before the season started, Chelsea would be one of the contenders, one of the big clubs, along with Liverpool and, of course, Manchester City, fighting for, you know, Europe trophies and everything. Yesterday was very, very poor, wasn't it? Or was it that they were made to look poor, or that at the moment they are poor?
No, well, I agree with John. It's only a week since they really outplayed Tottenham, and they looked pretty good, you know?
Yeah.
They looked hungry, they looked up for it. They did have Kante in midfield last week that they didn't have this weekend, you know, and he can make a difference.
Huge.
But they just didn't look as if they wanted to compete with the way Leeds played. And Leeds were amazing, as John said. I totally agree with them. The closing down, the chasing right from the start to finish was brilliant, you know. I heard Tuchel's interview after the game, and you would have to agree with them. They did start well, Chelsea, but, you know, they didn't take the couple of chances that they had. And then the Mendy gifted Leeds a goal, which gave them a great lift. You have to say that as well. But the contrast between Chelsea last week and this week was amazing.
Let me ask you both a question. Liam, I'll start with you. The Chelsea goalkeeper, Edward Mendy, this week got caught in possession, gave a goal away. Last week it was David De Gea who tried to play out from the back. They say he's not good enough to do that. Mendy got caught yesterday. What do you think, Liam, about this idea of almost saying that if a goalkeeper hasn't got, as part of his skill set, the ability to play out from the back, that's him done. Now, a lot of people said that about De Gea last week, that, and some people were quite explicit. If he can't do this, then, however good he is as a shot stopper, that's not good enough. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would agree. You have to weigh up, your goalkeeper's ability to do it before you ask him to do it, Eamon. And we could name the goalkeepers that are very good at it. Manchester City's goalkeeper, Liverpool's goalkeeper. They've lost goals as well.
Yes.
It is a very risky business, but I watched Manchester City yesterday in the second game up at Newcastle, and they do it very, very well. They get out time and time again. But they've kind of got it off the path. It's natural to them,
Yeah, and Edison, he's got really good feet, Liam. He could play in midfield.
Yeah, he can. If somebody gets closed down or someone's coming to close him down, he's very good at chipping it over the top of them out to the wide players.
Yes,
they're excellent doing it. But you wouldn't ask your goalkeeper. Or Mendy would be on the list with me. That you'd say to him, "Don't do it. Just clear your lines." Right. Ramsdale at Arsenal, he's lost a couple of goals as well, or very nearly lost a couple of goals as well, trying to do it. So De Gea comes to mind also. So I think we talked about this last week. It's too dangerous for me.
Yeah, John, what's your take on it? I mean, does it? If you're a coach, you want to bring a keeper in. If he doesn't have the ability to play out from the back in his skill set, is that him done?
No.
Right.
No. I want to see the goalkeeper stopping goals. That's your priority.
Yeah.
If the goalkeeper can play out from the back, that's a bonus. But most of it, I'm totally against it. And I think it's dangerous 90% of the time. And what the goalkeeper was doing yesterday was just ridiculous. That wasn't even playing out from the back. That was just he was trying to beat the balloon.
Trying to do a Johan Cruyff. Yeah.
It's just stupid, and I think it's overdone generally anyway. Playing out from the back, and if you're judging a goalkeeper by his distribution, rather than he's stopping the goals, I think it's arse ways looking at it, to be quite honest.
Right. Let's move on to Liam. Newcastle, Manchester City. Newcastle at one stage 3-1 up, having been 1-0 down. Newcastle really put on a performance. They had this guy, Saint-Maximin, who is dazzling, is I think the right word, but not always dazzling. He can be in and out. But for quite a long stretch of the game, it looked as if Newcastle might beat them. And I thought that was a major surprise because last week I felt City could go through the whole season without dropping too many points at all, and maybe without losing a game.
Well, it's too early to judge, Eamon.
Yeah.
We're only 2 games in after last week. It just shows you what can happen in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Particularly when Newcastle let in a poor goal after about 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah.
You were thinking, well, that's it, But they came back well, as you say. Saint-Maximin, he's a very exciting player, but sometimes he can do daft things, but yesterday he was really on form.
He was, yeah.
And Newcastle came back great, scored a great second goal, Maximum involved again. And when Trippier scored from the free kick, you thought, well, 2-goal lead, they're playing well, Newcastle will be able to hang on. But I thought Manchester City were very, very impressive the way they came back, Eamon.
Right.
If you looked at the amount of chances they created, they should have won the game. But I thought the football they played when they had to come back was excellent.
And just let me ask both of you, I asked John about the game as well, but this fella Haaland, Liam, I think he is going to score an awful lot of goals. I think he's great. He was very unlucky not to get a hat-trick yesterday.
Yeah, he'd be kicking himself if he didn't.
Yeah.
Pope made a couple of good saves,
didn't he?
With his feet. But Haaland did have a couple of chances, but he took his goal very, very well. He's so quick and so powerful, Eamon. And with the people that he has around, like Bernardo Silva and Foden and De Bruyne, who are going to be able to thread those passes through for him, I would go along with you. I think he'll be up around the 30-goal mark.
Yeah, John, I'm sure you'd agree with that, because we were talking during the match yesterday. What we did look at and what we were talking about, and I'll ask him about this in a minute, you are not convinced, and I agree with you now, about Manchester City's ability in midfield, in particular. That there's a lot of square passing. They don't really make the kind of telling passes. And I'm thinking about Rodri, Gundogan, who wanders forward and drifts into goal scoring and gets a lot of goals for a midfield player. But a lot of their midfield play is kind of square, sideways, and you're not as taken with them as some people.
No, Eamon, I think they're not balanced.
Yes. In
midfield.
Yeah.
And if you look at the game yesterday, like De Bruyne is very far forward now.
Yes.
The man you mentioned there, Rodri, he's okay. He's a square passer. But yesterday they had Foden on the left, out wide on the left.
Yeah.
Bernard Silva, who I think is their best midfield player, didn't play in that position yesterday. Gundogan is a goal scorer from midfield.
Yeah.
So what you'll find with Jesse, I think, when they were attacking, excellent aiming.
Yes.
But when the ball broke down, there was little or no defence.
Yes. Yep.
There's no balance to the midfield in particular. Right. I'd have Bernard Silva in the middle, Rodri has to be there, but De Bruyne is not playing in the middle of the field. Gundogan doesn't play in the middle of the field.
Yep.
So Foden is on the left wing. So, like when they're going forward, very good. But as soon as they lose the ball in and around there, Eamon, they're in big trouble.
Yeah, I can see, and yesterday sort of bore that out. I mean, a lot of the damage did originate in midfield, and there was a lot of space for Newcastle. Not Joe Linton played; he's a big lump, but he played okay in midfield for Newcastle as well as San Maximum. Let me ask you about.
But you need a balance there, then.
Of
you know
course
what I mean? You need a balance there. Like, okay, you're going forward well, but there's like once they lose the ball, then they're in big trouble. That catches up on you, Eamon, during the game. Like they lost 3 goals yesterday. Now they did extremely well getting back into the game because they got the forward play again, and then they're brilliant when they got that. But the really balanced team, Eamon, don't lose 3 goals.
Right.
You know. That's my take on them. They're brilliant players, but there's a balance that needs to be there in the middle of the field or in the team generally. And if you get to Brian and Gundogan, these are goal scorers now. I mean, De Bruyne is a goal maker. He's not playing in midfield. So that'll be my fear for them. If I have a fear for them, in the balance that you're needed in the team. In other words, you're going forward well, but if you lose the ball, you're still well able to defend. So it's what City, at the moment, the way I see them yesterday, it was all or nothing. They were going to score going forward, or they were going to lose if they lost the ball in the middle of the field, or even further forward in the middle of the field.
Let me ask you about Haaland, John. I mean, players, we've been around, all of us, for a long time now, seen a lot of great players, a lot of young players with promise. This man, I think, is awesome in his skill set. The pace, the strength, the vision, the willingness, and, of course, the ability to finish it off. And he could easily have had a hat-trick yesterday.
Yeah, he's a powerful player, as we can see. He's a big lad, exceptionally quick for his and balanced for his size. I think he can get better as the time goes on in the Premiership. But like Liam, I think he scored a lot of goals.
Yeah, a lot. And that was something. They didn't really have a 20-goal-a-year man. They maybe have a 30-goal-a-year man now. Liam, Arsenal are top of the table. I don't think they've had the hardest of starts, but what they've had to do, they've done quite impressively. What did you make of the performance? Again, Bournemouth aren't a real test, but you still got to get the job done. What about this fella Odegaard, who scored 2 of the goals, the first and second goal in the first 10 minutes of the match?
Well, first of all, Arsenal played very, very well, Eamon. They're playing with a lot of confidence. I think after winning the first 2 games of the season, they went down to Bournemouth and they fancied their chances, and they were very, very confident. They knocked the ball around well. Bournemouth you have to say, were looked a poor team in this division, and I think they're in for a long, hard season. But they just couldn't get near Arsenal, couldn't get near the ball. We talked about Jesus last week. He's really leading the line well, and he was brilliant for the first goal. How he backed into the centre back and got it under control and went on the dribble, put Martinelli in. And what Odegaard is doing, who you asked me about, he's getting in the box a lot more, Eamon, because Arsenal are dominating teams, and he has that kind of free role in the middle of the park. You've got Partey and you've got Xhaka sitting in midfield. They're the two central midfield, and Odegaard has a license to go wherever he wants. And he did well for both goals. The second goal, when he took it off Jesus' foot, he smashed it in really well. But I would be waiting to judge Odegaard when he comes up against the big boys. Yes. For me, he hasn't done it yet. He didn't do it last season. He went kind of missing in those two big games against Spurs and Newcastle when Champions League was on the line. So I'd wait before I'd go overboard about him.
Right. John, just to move on to someone I know there's a lot of interest in how he does in management, Steven Gerrard. Another bad result yesterday. Again, away from home. Their form away from home is very, 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 very poor. And we spoke about it last week. Palace beat them 3-1, comfortable enough. And Villa, again, they were winning 1-0. They scored an early goal, but that didn't last long. He could have a problem. They're quite close to the bottom, and they haven't played any of the big boys yet either. They don't really look as if they've got it, do they?
Well, sometimes they do, Eamon. They look very good, and then sometimes they don't. There is an inconsistency there. There's no doubt about it. And he left Mings out there a while ago. Yeah. He had a go at him in the paper. I think
took the captaincy off him as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just get the impression, Eamon, and it's only impression because it's early days for him, that he's a bit hard on them.
Yeah.
In
public.
He's a bit hard on the players. He criticised them publicly. They're not doing it, and I got into them at half time, and and I think what can happen in football is that you can be too hard on the players, Eamon.
Yes.
I've heard of it, and I was lucky enough not to be in that position to have a manager that was too hard. But I've heard of it before, where the players say, "Oh, that's enough."
Yeah.
Because he can be very, very critical publicly.
Yes.
After the match, and I believe it. As a manager, you don't give anything away like that publicly. After you're going to do it in the dressing room, you do it in the dressing room, but you don't go public on it. And he's inclined to do that. And I just have a feeling that maybe among the players, say, that's enough.
Yep.
I've had enough of that. And I don't know, because it's early days yet, and there's an inconsistency about him. Matches that you would expect them to win and are winning, and they don't. So I just feel that he could be a little bit too hard on the players. That's only my take on it so far, Eamon.
Okay, Liam, Crystal Palace, Patrick Vieira got a really great result at Anfield. Very unlucky not to win, actually. And Zaha's goal was superb. He scored again against Villa at the weekend. He's doing a good job there, isn't he?
He's doing an excellent job, Aaron. We talked about him last season.
Yeah.
He's playing a different style of football to Roy Hodgson. They're playing much more attacking game. They're a big physical side. And I think if they had a really top striker to go with Zaha, because Zaha is a wide left player, I think probably is his best position. But the Palace are having to play him up front because I don't think Vieira's got faith in any of the other strikers. So, they look very good. He's a good manager. And Villa look to be, a side that will give the big teams problems, especially at Selhurst Park.
Yes.
And they'll finish. I would think comfortably in the Premier League. They won't have any relegation worries this season either. So, Vieira is making his mark at Palace without any doubt. Go back to Gerrard. I would agree with John. he was very, very critical in his first 18 months.
Yes.
At Rangers of the players, openly critical, and I thought, oh, this is far too harsh. But they went on to win the Liga, and stop Celtic from winning 10 in a row, and Gerrard was a hero. We'll have to wait and see what's going to happen. But I would be a bit concerned, as I was when he was at Rangers for the first 18 months, that he is too critical, very, very critical of his players to the media.
Yeah, and as John said, and particularly because you played for John, he didn't say anything to the press. He'd hardly say good morning. But he certainly wouldn't be giving any secrets away, dressing room secrets away. And it's fair to say, isn't it, John, there's very few of the great managers who have publicly criticised their players. I mean, Alex Ferguson would get the hairdryer out, but he'd be in the dressing room. He wouldn't be going into press conferences and talking to the media after the game and lashing individuals.
No, I never believed in it, Eamon.
I know that, John. You didn't like the press. You were notorious.
I didn't dislike them. I just felt the press had a job to do, Eamon, and I must be honest now, I wasn't aware of their job in those days, because they used to say to me afterwards, John, I have a job to do. And I said, yeah, but you realise I have a job to do. And my responsibility is to the players, not to you, to be giving you stories. Yeah. Because in those days, I mean, if I played with, say, Liam and McMartin, and they'd say, well, in the second half, you lost it in midfield. Yeah. So I said, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Well, Nick and Liam could come to me and I said, what's going on? I wouldn't give anything away like that. I mean, that my responsibility was to the players. And obviously the press didn't like that and didn't like me for it, which is fair enough. I probably could have given them a bit more than I did, but I had no intentions of being responsible for their jobs. I was more responsible for my own job.
Yes, and you did it really well. Now, John and Liam, to Spurs, Tottenham Hotspur, there's a thing called Spursy. I think maybe Roy Keane invented it, but Spursy means no heart, chicken, don't like going up north and easy. If you get stuck into them, they'll pack it in. They're not Spursy anymore to my eye. And it was a very good game, John, between Wolves and Spurs Saturday lunchtime. And I was impressed by Wolves, really, but I was also impressed by Spurs and the perseverance and discipline, kept going, and Harry Kane in the end got the goal that mattered. I think Spurs are going to be there all season.
Well, they're going to be hard to beat, Eamon.
Yes.
I'm not so sure they have the players to really challenge Liverpool and City, but they're a lot better than they were before Conte came.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
They are a team now, Eamon. Yeah. You know, the Wolves match was difficult. I just felt the Wolves didn't really believe that they could do it.
Yes.
Eamon, that's what I felt with Wolves. But there was no doubt, and the previous week where they had a very difficult match, they hung in there against Chelsea, Eamon. You know, I think we talked about it last week. I mean, last year they would have been 5 down against Chelsea till Conte came in. So he's a real manager. He's got them going, very, very professional. They were very professional against Wolves in a different way. They didn't, despite the fact Wolves had a lot of play, they didn't give much away. And then they finished up getting the goal in the end. So I think that they're very impressive Spurs. I don't think they're quite good enough yet, Eamon, to challenge the two, the Liverpool and City.
Yeah, I know, absolutely, but they won't be dropping like a stone down the table. You know, they'll be there.
No, that's not going to happen. They're on the way up, Eamon, and I think they'll only get better and better now as they go along. This fella's a real manager, and he's been successful before, and I think he's doing a terrific job at Spurs.
Now, Liam, Graham Potter at Brighton. An English coach, there's only a couple, Eddie Howe at Newcastle, but we've spoken before, they're well up the table now. They went to West Ham, won 2-0, controlled the game. This guy's a really good coach, and he's having to sell players as well as keep them, you know, alive and flourishing in the Premier League. He's done a really good job, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's lost 2 big players, didn't he? He lost Basuno in midfield and Cucurella to Chelsea to the left back. But it hasn't seemed to affect them. They recruit very well. The chairman, Tony Bloom, is a genius in many ways. If you read about him, Eamon,
I didn't know about him.
Oh yeah, in the betting world, he's made enormous amounts of money on the Asian handicap.
Oh, he's one of our own, then, Liam. He's one of our own.
Well, no, I'm a punter. He's not a punter. He takes the bets. You know what I mean? So I think he's been very successful in the horse racing world with winners, particularly with Willie Mullins,
right.
Cheltenham, and I think he's won the Cesarewitch at Newmarket. They lay out these horses that you don't expect to win. Then they're all of a sudden they're backed and they win. And in many ways, he's done the same with his football team. And he's created a club in Belgium. A lot of the players go there. He judges them, and then if he thinks they're up to it, he brings them over. They've got a great recruitment. And Potter, they've got an excellent manager. You know, again, I think Bloom was very, very clever in doing his homework on who he was going to bring in as the next manager of Brighton. And he did well to get Graham Potter, and their results have been fantastic if you consider the resources they have and the wage bill they have, Eamon.
Yes.
It's very, very impressive.
Yeah, John, also, and it's fascinating what Liam's just told us there, because it does show how so often in football and indeed in life, the good stuff or bad stuff comes from the top. They play really good football, John. There's a composure about them, and you see Potter on the touchline. No ranting, no raving, calm, with a side that reflects very well on him.
Yeah, no, he's very, very good. I mean, even after the matches, when he's interviewed, when they do get a good win, he doesn't get carried away with it. You know, he's got his feet on the ground. He's very, very good. And he's done a tremendous job.
Yeah.
As Liam says, the owner. I hope the owner doesn't ask too much of him, Liam. You know, it's okay selling, and he sold a few players and he does that, but sometimes it gets to the stage where it goes a little bit too far. And I just thought like that. He's not asked to do too much.
No,
he's done a great job so far.
I don't think he will, because he knows, like Bloom's looking at the wage bill of his team and, you know, how much his team has cost. And, you know, that'll be factored into his judgment of the results and the manager. I think he's a very calm guy. And I think Brighton are a very, very strong club. You know, you can't see them struggling to stay in the division for the foreseeable, you know.
No, that's great, Liam. I mean, it's what we find with most other owners, Liam. They do take advantage of it and say, well, the manager has to do this, that, and the other, and I'll get the money in. But they seem to have a good combination there, and good luck to them. They've done very well, and it's good to see a club like that doing as well as they are doing without having the resources of some of the big clubs.
Yes, and talking of resources and big clubs, just before we finish, lads, big game tonight at Old Trafford. Manchester United without a point, bottom of the table, except for West Ham, who lost again at home to Brighton, against Liverpool, who've had, I suppose, a disappointing start to the season. The 2 points that City dropped yesterday will be great encouragement, I imagine, for Klopp. He's got a lot of injuries. Liam, how do you see this game going? There's a huge amount on it for both clubs and for both coaches, of course. But what's your take on it, Liam?
Well, I'm fascinated to see how Manchester United react to what has been two dreadful results.
Yes.
And the club seems to be all over the place as regards their signings, and just don't know what team that's going to be playing. You know, who's going to play in midfield, and where's Eriksen going to play? Is he going to be the guy who starts to play off in midfield?
Which is daft.
I'm fascinated to see that. You would have to fancy Liverpool, you know, even though they have a lot of injuries. Looking at Manchester United, looking at the morale of the team, you would have to fancy Liverpool. But, you never know. You just don't know. Nobody would have thought Leeds could give Chelsea a doing like that. Nobody thought Newcastle could, stop Manchester City. So this is the great thing about the Premier League. But I am fascinated to see if Ten Hag can get a reaction from these United players, because their performances have been so lacking in spirit and morale that, up against this Liverpool team, you'd have to worry for them.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the news, John, is, of course, they have signed from Real Madrid Casemiro, a player we all have known, because he's been at the heart of the Madrid team that's won 5 Champions Leagues. He's 30 years of age. They're paying 65 million. He's a holding midfield player. I think he's had a lot of injuries and missed a lot of games for Madrid over the last couple of seasons. I think it was a panic buy and daft. He won't be playing tonight. He won't be registered in time, but it shows how desperate Manchester United are to make some kind of splash. 30 years of age, John, injury plagued, 65 million. Anyway, that doesn't sound great, does it?
No. Well, the policy over the last few years in the transfer market and even since this new manager came in hasn't been good.
Yeah.
I can't see anything but a win for Liverpool, to be quite honest. I mean, the problems that Liverpool have are players who are injured.
Yeah.
But the problems that Manchester United have are just very, 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 very serious. I mean, in terms of morale, players having to go and not having to go.
Yeah.
Is Ronaldo going to play? Is Ronaldo going to stay? All this carry on. I mean, Klopp hasn't got those problems at the moment. Never did have them, because he got in charge of the situation from the start.
Yeah.
You don't know what to expect. Manchester United play tonight. What team are they going to play? Yeah. How do you get morale back in a week, Eamon?
Yeah.
It's a very, very difficult situation. He's a big job to do, and he's a long way to go. I mean, if I was a Manchester United supporter, you'd be keeping your fingers crossed that everything would be okay tonight and the team would start playing. But are you going to do that in a week? Last week they had a terrible result, and he brought them back in on the Sunday to do extra training.
He made them run.
That's not always.
I think the Brentford ran 15 kilometres more than Manchester United in the game. Apparently brought them in and made them run 15 kilometres.
But that's a day late, Eamon.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? That's nonsense. Why not bring him in on Monday and do extra give them more training? Does that mean they're going to run more on the Saturday? This is total nonsense. Once you hear that, it makes, from Manchester United's point of view, if I was a Manchester United supporter, it make me feel worse.
Right.
You don't know what to expect. Just don't know what to expect. But if I was putting money on it now, I'd put a few bob on Liverpool. I certainly wouldn't put any money on Manchester United.
No, I won't be doing that. I'll be putting my money in the bank, in the post office, actually. Liam, I just want to ask you about Casemiro. We've seen him over the years. He is a really good holding player. He's played in between Klose and Modric. He has had a lot of injuries. When he does play, he really breaks up attacks, uses the ball well. He's 30 years of age. He's probably had more injuries than you'd want. They paid 65 million. Does that smack of desperation just to get a name? And he's willing to come to Manchester, which is interesting. Ancelotti, the Madrid coach, is a shrewd old owl. He wouldn't be selling him if he was good to go.
No, well, Real Madrid don't have to sell, but I suppose they're looking at balancing the books a bit, and it makes sense. It makes total sense. You'd have to say Casemiro has been a great player for Real Madrid. Like, he was terrific in the Champions League final against Liverpool. And that's only a few months ago. So he's 30. That's a good age for a midfield player. You can get another 2 or 3 years out of him. Right. But he's a big, heavy lad, and as you said, Eamon, he's had a few injuries. So that would, that would put a question mark behind the signing. But he is a top player, and he is a kind of player that Manchester United need. If you've got Eriksen playing in that position, when Eriksen's far better up around in the last third of the field, it makes you scratch your head. So it was a signing that was probably needed in that position, but only time will tell whether Casemiro's going to deliver at his age and with the injuries, as you said, as Daddy's had. But I'll be watching tonight, and I suppose we'll talk about them next week.
Okay, Liam Brady and John Giles, thank you both very much for joining us on the stand. Two great players, two great analysts, and neither Liam nor me will be putting any money on Manchester United tonight. Thanks to John for the good advice. Gamble carefully is our new motto.